that's been out for about 45 minutes.
So just water?
Yeah, just water. With the white ones, you can use Clorox or something, but it will take the black out of the clay body. That's another thing that the smoke does in the reduction chambers, is that it turns the clay body black. So this is all porcelain clay that would normally just be white, but it's now black because of the smoke that is absorbed. Yeah, the white one is more traditional. And again, all this black stuff will come off with the Scotch-Brite, and it'll actually be white. Yeah.
You say that's more traditional for Raku?
Yeah, traditionally, the story goes, in about 1500, or 15th century, excuse me, in Japan, the emperor, this is a sort of an urban legend, but the emperor kidnapped a Korean potter who was using this process of quick-firing pots. Now, normally, the pots were being fired in big onigami kilns, and it was taking it, days, if not a week or so, to fire them. And this was the emperor wanted them for his Zen Buddhist tea ceremony. And because of the spontaneous and sort of unknown factor of this, it really lent itself to the ceremony. So he kidnapped the potter and the son, and they came and worked for the emperor, and they actually acquired the name Raku, R-A-K-U, which is still a name in use today, and it's not necessarily a bloodline, but apprentices can be taken on, and they add that name in. I could be, Daniel Raku D.Kuhn if I was an apprentice there. It would sound a little silly, but normally in that period, and even up until the 1950s, the pots were just pulled out of the kiln and left to cool. They weren't put into a reduction chamber, so you would get this crackling, but you wouldn't notice this crackling until you drank tea out of it, or something that would stain the pot. In this manner, there was a man named Paul Soldner who saw Bernard Leach and Shoji Hamada demonstrate this, and he decided to, and then he read Bernard Leach's book, and he decided he would try it himself. Well, they weren't very interesting, they were sort of bland and drab, and he decided to pull them out. When he pulled them out of the kiln, now this is another thing that we're not quite clear on, if there just happened to be leaves laying around that he set them on, or if he, decided to do that, we don't know. But he rolled them in pepper tree leaves, and that's where he discovered the copper flashing. And there's lots of different ways to do this. This is a very standard way. I use wood chips, some people use newspaper, some people use leaves, grass, shredded paper. I prefer the sawdust because it just ends up being thrown away from our wood studio at I.U.P. So, but that's where the flashing comes in, and it's the American version, Americanized, American Raku. It's not the traditional technique to the fullest extent. But now this I'm probably going to refire it another day because the glaze didn't fully melt. See, it's all bubbly and that's not exactly what I would shoot for. But along those same lines, the whole idea is that you never know what you're going to get. So you want to leave it up to the fire. You sort of want to leave it up to the gods to do what they will with it, because if you try and control it, you're never going to get what you want. So if you just let it go and see what happens. And again, with the Scotch-Brite or something a little more coarse, all this black stuff will come off. And then you can, with the coppery ones, these will, over 50, 60 years, re-oxidize because of the oxygen in the air. But you can use olive oil or butcher's block wax. Wax is a really good one. That'll seal it up. It'll seal it longer. unfortunately, you know, it's not what we would call archival. It doesn't last forever. It's not like a high-fired piece. But, you know, 60 years is pretty good.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Pour out of the can here.
Over there, Dan.